in the squadron. They called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Eid Mubarak to everyone here. Salam alaikum. Allahu Akbar.
So, don't you guys have like a mosque for this kind of stuff? Indoors?
Allahu liman hamida.
What the hell's going on here?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
So that's a great big outdoor religious something or other. Prospect Park, Brooklyn, the mayor. Is it a special something? I don't know. I'm trying to think of the last time I've seen an outdoor Christian mass. I guess Yankee Stadium when the Pope was there. Joel Osteen has used Madison Square Garden. There's something unusual about what's happening, obviously. I remember it wasn't long ago, 2008, 2009, people were very upset at the idea that a mosque was being erected in the shadow of the World Trade Center. Perhaps if he had acknowledged that 9/11, right, what happened to the people, what happened to this city, what happened to us, what happened to the world as a result of this radical Islamic-inspired event, right? Instead, what did he do? He cried about his aunt who was on the subway, and somebody looked at her funny. Is that the story? That's what his takeaway was from 9/11? Yeah, I just was past this. How many children were lost on 9/11? It's something that I have only thought about once before, and I knew at least one child, a young girl on one of the planes who was going to Disneyland with her mother and her mother's friend, and she was 3. But there were 8 children who were lost on 9/11, and 3,000 children lost their parents. 2.5-year-old Christine Lee Hansen was the youngest of the 8 children who were killed on 9/11. All passengers aboard the aircraft commandeered by terrorists. Christine's life will be remembered through the display of her beloved Peter Rabbit, which will be installed in the 9/11 Museum's memorial exhibit Thursday, June 11th after closing. The September 11, 2001, on that day, Christine and her parents, Peter and Sue Kim Hansen, left their residence in Groton, Massachusetts and boarded United Flight 175 at Logan Airport. The family was flying to Los Angeles to visit Sue Kim's relatives, followed by a trip to Disneyland, also going to Disneyland. The hijacked plane never reached its destination. 2 other children died on the same flight when it crashed into the South Tower of the World Trade Center. Now I'm looking at her right here, the most adorable little girl. I want to talk a little bit more about adorable children, because we were all adorable at one point in our lives, right? Even my enemies. Especially, we all were little children, and we were all somebody's baby, and we're all God's children. It's true. I have an enemy now. I have many enemies, really. I don't give them much mind, but somebody I didn't knock on my door, but really let me know that he's my enemy now, and did it electronically. And I had a few words for him as well, that yes, in this world, we are enemies. But then I had something else to say. I'll get back to that in a moment. Christine was a bright, busy toddler who loved taking trips to the playground and helping her father in the garden. An attentive caretaker of her toys, she favored a stuffed Peter Rabbit character from the classic Beatrice Potter series. It was given to her by her grandmother, Eunice Hansen, in acknowledgement of Christine's birth in the Chinese year of the rabbit. Peter Rabbit replaced Christine's previously best-loved plaything, a red Teletubby acquired in infancy that went everywhere with her, Eunice Hansen recalls. In 2014, both of these cherished keepsakes were entrusted to the 9/11 Memorial Museum by her grandparents, Eunice and Lee Hansen. Can you imagine that? Losing your children and your grandchild. 2 Winnie the Pooh stickers that Christine placed on Peter Rabbit's torso are still attached. She put stickers on everything she liked. I suppose it was her mark of approval, Eunice Hansen said. Included in the Hansens' gift to the museum was a photograph of Christine celebrating her first birthday with the world peace incised on the picture frame. The peace frame containing Christine's picture taken in a traditional Korean outfit is the most poignant, said Eunice Hansen. That one word describes Christine's parents, who were loving people and believed in kindness. I could ask volumes of questions why this happened to them, given who they were. And this was written up by Jan Seidler Ramirez, Chief Curator and Vice President of Collections. How beautiful. I can't tell if this is. So, and this is the most adorable little girl. And I have two adorable little girls. It's very easy to write people off because we are often warring with people, right? Warring with each other. So this is the individual. I'm going to leave out his name, but I'm going to talk around it. This person has been very, very upset that I won't join with this individual in protests that I think are dangerous, ill-advised, stupid, over the top, weird, problematic, maybe even a little bit racist. I won't do it. I have no interest in doing anything like that, and I can't seem to convince this person that, I really want nothing to do with them. I was not even a friend, but an ally of this individual at one point. This is a person who was apprehended and put in prison, I think unfairly, for January 6th. I interviewed this guy twice from prison on January 6th, and or after January 6th. I found him to be a little bit obnoxious. He kept on coming to me and saying, put me on this, put me on that. You know what I mean? Why don't you put me on the radio? Why don't you do this? And I'm like, I don't really, And then he's like, please, please, please. And then finally, he starts getting very fresh with me. I guess you're a half-hearted patriot and all those kinds of things. And you don't have the guts, right? I love this. You don't have the guts. I think to myself, did I see this guy in the Marine Corps? Did I ever bump into him behind the ship, behind the USS Tarawa at night? Huh? Was he with me in the cockpit as I was trying to tank off a C-130 on a rainy, crummy, crappy night? Huh? Was he there? No. But that would have been boastful. That would have been very boastful. But I told this guy what I thought of him. I called him a troublemaker. I called him a media whore. I said that he was selfish and ridiculous. I said that, quite frankly, I believe he might be an undercover agent representing the federal government because I don't trust a guy like this, because everything he seems to be doing is damaging a political movement that I love, and I think he might be doing it on purpose. But then I had to come full circle, and I mean every word of this. I said, whatever and whoever you really are, and as much as I do not like you or what you are doing, blah, 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 I love you as a fellow human being and a Christian. As I believe you believe, God has preordained all of this. Nothing surprises him. We don't have the answers. He does. And everything from President Trump's election to breakfast this morning to my interviewing you from jail and to refusing to do so now, well, he knows everything and can make it all work out for his glory. That's not to say either of us is not making mistakes. That is not to say either of us is not being sinful. We do have free will, but he is in charge. I hope you know all of this. I guess it's actually awesome for me to understand that we may be public adversaries at this point, but that I can genuinely and truly want God's best for you. That's not me being special or you being special. That is all from him, of course, with a capital H. He wrote one little insulting thing back, and then he wrote, God bless you, Greg. So I cut him some slack on the insulting thing because, after all, I did call him a media whore. I called him a lot of stuff there. And but I guess that's it's kind of what it's all about, right? I feel him, I don't like him, but I love him. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Hey, hit it. Cut 12. Who can name that tune, please? Name that tune. That's a little bit of the Canadian national anthem, Glorious and Free, My Foot. That place is so weird. You know they can't get media from America on their social media anymore? You can't get certain networks, certain conservative news sites. They will not put them. They will not allow them in Canada, on Instagram, on Facebook. It is totally bizarre. I thought I was being punked. I thought it was Canada that's totally and completely lost it. A lot of this has to do with Justin Trudeau. I know he's not there anymore, but at this point, I know he's a communist. All right. I know that he's Fidel Castro's son, literally the son of Fidel Castro. You can look it up. That actually happened. How about that? Hey, one real quick. President Trump at the White House with the Japanese Prime Minister. Did he go too far? Of course he did not. I think after all these years, you can totally make a joke. We're the ones who paid the price, not Japan. We can rib Japan for what they did to us. Everybody's like, oh, how could they do this to Japan? How could you say this about Japan? My foot. Some Japanese guy was saying, why didn't you tell Japan ahead of time? You should have told Japan about the raid on Iran. Are you crazy? Listen to it. Cut 11. You know where this is, right? The Pearl Harbor stuff. Cut 11.
Japan about the war before attacking Iran. So we are very confused about we Japanese citizens.
Well, one thing you don't want to signal too much. You know, when we go in, we went in very hard, and we didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay? Right? You know, he's asking me, do you believe in surprise? I think much more so than us.
People are outraged. They're appalled. I think it's nice that we're friends with Japan. It's also especially nice that we beat them so bad. Unconditional surrender, right? I mean, they kind of asked for it. We had to finish that war. And now we're friends. And that's beautiful. But a guy from Japan is giving President Trump a hard time about not sharing with Japan. Hey, Japan, just so you know, we're doing this. Why would you ever have to tell Japan? Are we going to call New Zealand when we got bin Laden? No. This is so random and weird. We wouldn't do that. Who knows about surprise more than Japan? Personally, I love it. And then the serious business of war and peace. War and peace. Cut 8, please. Cut 8.
Do you intend to potentially put U.S. troops or more troops in the region?
No, I'm not putting troops anywhere. If I were, I certainly wouldn't tell you. We are substantially ahead of schedule, and I had to do this. I call it an excursion. I had to take this little excursion and do something that no other president had the courage to do. And everybody wanted to do it, but they never had the courage to do it. And I don't blame them.
You know who really wanted to do it? Bill Clinton, that president that he was talking about. The president talked to me, and he said, oh, I wish I had done it. I wish I had done it. You know, it was President Clinton. I know that President Trump talks to President Clinton, and I also know that President Clinton has openly complained, I didn't get bin Laden when I had the chance. I wish I had got him. Cut 9.
I had responsibility for trying to protect this country. I tried, and I failed to get bin Laden. I regret it, but I did try. And I did everything I thought I responsibly could.
So he's very defensive on this issue. Right, and he has told different things to different people. He told this story to somebody, cut 10.
And I'm just saying, if I were Osama bin Laden, he's a very smart guy. I spent a lot of time thinking about him. And I nearly got him once. I nearly got him. And I could have killed him. But I would have had to destroy a little town called Kandahar in Afghanistan and kill 300 innocent women and children. And then I would have been no better than him. And so I didn't do it. Now, he said to other people that he actually did bomb a camp where he thought bin Laden was, killed a lot of terrorists, but bin Laden had left just before. Didn't say anything about Kandahar. All right, so he's a little bit torn. Troops on the ground, boots on the ground. You can never, ever, ever have boots on the ground. I mean, aren't they allowed to walk? We have soldiers, they have boots, they can't be on the ground. It's a little much, actually. It's one of the very bad takeaways from the Iraq war. We screwed up Iraq. We went into the wrong country, but that doesn't mean
warfare is off the table. That doesn't mean ground combat is off the table. Sometimes you're going to have to do it. Not necessarily now, but you got to keep it on the table. Listen to these people. Cut 7.
I am more fearful than ever after this briefing that we may be putting boots on the ground.
My hard red line, boots on the ground. That's when I would get concerned if they start to talk about boots on the ground.
And now the administration apparently is threatening to send ground troops in to Iran, which we know will be a disaster.
How do we know that? How do we know that? Look, President Trump doesn't want to do that. But just because George W. Bush and Obama and Biden screwed up Iraq, Afghanistan, and Iran, giving them money, allowing them to develop nuclear, it doesn't mean that you have taken that off the table. You guys screwed it up, but we won't. Be right back.
Greg Kelly on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back. 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. Democrats are vowing revenge on MAGA should they take power in the midterms and in 2028. They're going to hold Nuremberg-like tribunals for MAGA. We're going to be in a lot of trouble. What the hell did we do wrong? Huh? We don't go to transgender drag story time hour? What do you want from us? I just want to live our life. Not too much regulation, not too much taxes. If we get involved in a foreign war, let's make sure it's not dumb, and let's make sure it doesn't go on forever. Okay? Is that a problem? You guys, why is there so much outrage about Iran, a country that has actually attacked us? And it became almost mandatory to wear a Ukraine pin in Congress for the past 4 years. Ukraine pin. That's crazy. But it's, as Reince Priebus, my buddy, just said, there is so much profit, I guess, in division, in keeping us divided. I would love a united country. I still believe that President Trump, in one moment, he will be so popular. If he ran for president again, he would win 50 states. It sounds crazy. Our country has done it twice with Republicans, by the way. It could happen again. That level of love.
Life gets a lot easier once you start using Shipt same-day delivery. With Shipt, connect with reliable shoppers who go to your fave national and local stores for you. They hand-select everything on your list, so you get peace of mind and time back for anything. More time to sip coffee, more time to work out, more time to enjoy your way. Try Shipt today with a 14-day free trial. Download the Shipt app or visit Shipt.com. Terms apply.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Nah, you know what? The media landscape has changed all over again, and that's fine. People try to tell me, oh my God, it's changing so fast. People are people. I remember I saw a picture from 1950, a 1950 picture from the Long Island Railroad, and they're all men, they're all wearing hats, right? And what are they doing? They are all looking at their phones. They're all looking at their phones. Give that guy a call if you don't mind, okay? And no, they're not looking at their phones. They're looking at the newspaper. But it might as well be their phones. They were buried in the newspaper, and now they're buried in the phones. It's kind of the same thing. Immersion in news. We're always looking for a distraction. We always have been looking for a distraction. But this distraction is different. The newspaper, right? You can only read the newspaper so many times. You can only read the newspaper once, really. And you're not going to read all of it. You're going to read it, and pretty soon it's going to get a little bit dirty. It's going to lose its crispness, right? You're going to skip over the arts section. You're going to skip over maybe you'll read the sports section. Maybe you don't. Maybe arts and leisure, whatever. You're not going to consume that whole newspaper. pretty soon you're going to start living your life, right? You have to live your life. You have to interact with people. You have to go to work. You have to be at work. Now this bloody phone, the digital content follows us everywhere. It is so easy. It is so addictive. And I don't think anybody is particularly enjoying it. It's like tell me, have you ever seen anybody smile while they look at the phone? They look totally numb and totally in outer space. They're just totally out of it. I wonder. It makes me wonder. Now, one of the longest serving radio stations in America is coming to a close. CBS Radio, the network. There will be no more CBS Radio coming in May. They just gave the memo. This new phenom, Barry Weiss, she is running CBS. Some say she's running it into the ground, and some say she's doing what has to be done if there's going to be a CBS 100 years from now. Curtis Houck joins us, the great media student, scholar, doing all that great stuff for the Media Research Center and beyond. Curtis Houck, welcome back. How are you?
Good to be with you, my friend. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm all right. My media diet is kind of like what I was just describing, on the phone all the time. The CBS is in turmoil. Does it matter? And who cares? Maybe we should all care. What's going on at CBS right now?
I mean, I think, on the most recent news, we'll start there with CBS News Radio. Yes, it is sad because it is an institution. I mean, all of these broadcast networks started here on the radio as we're talking right now before, obviously, television came about. So there's definitely the loss of a kind of historical brand, CBS News Radio. But I posed the question on X today, speaking of the phone, and said how many people listen to it. And a lot of the folks who did respond are either A, in the news business like us, or B, probably over the age of 45. And I think that is, the reality here, that a lot of Americans, and this ties into your point, are on their phones. They're getting their news that way. They're consuming podcasts. And with Odyssey, unrelated to CBS, one of your competitors shut down, and the great WABC is still going, thank goodness. But the reality is people are moving away from radio. Now, more broadly about CBS News, the balance sheets are something that everyone is struggling with, so I understand that Barry Weiss is simply the person who is there right now. There have been past layoffs at CBS, so I think it's kind of unfair to kind of suggest that she's merely just doing this willy-nilly to somehow create MAGA TV. And I say that's not true. They are nothing like conservative media. You watch them day in and day out. They still have people like Margaret Brennan. Yes, they have occasionally fair stories, like they're the only ones who followed up on what happened at Temple Israel out in Michigan. But on the other hand, they're still cranking out the same kind of bias. So anytime Jimmy Kimmel makes a remark like he did at the Oscars saying CBS is North Korean TV, it's just not grounded in reality.
No, I get it. By the way, the thing about radio, though, here what we're doing, it's innovative, and we have now a massive online presence, and people can listen to the radio on the phone. And if you look at podcasting, so interesting. It's almost like text messaging. People used to pick up the phone in the old days, in the 80s, and talk to each other, right? I mean, that would seem like a much more preferable thing to do than to send each other little small messages, right? Hey, if we had that in the 1980s, we would think the voice phone call is like the biggest invention in the world. We were limited to little fortune cookie messages to each other, and now we can speak on the phone, but it's like in reverse. It's crazy. Right. I look at it that way. But look, one more thing about CBS, the evening news, Tony Dokoupil. I think he should change his name to Tony D. We got this weatherman in New York, Mr. G. Nobody knows what his last name is, but everybody knows Mr. G. Dokoupil is so complicated, the last name. Tony D, he'd be a bigger star. How do you think that show is going?
Colloquially, yes. In our newsroom, we refer to him as Tony D when we're discussing the show amongst ourselves. So there you go. I mean, or Tony de Red Pill, because it's clear that, he's made a pivot since he was nearly run out of town for simply asking Ta-Nehisi Coates anything other than a series of softballs about his Gaza book a few years ago. I would say that it's still trying to find its footing. I mean, much was made about some of the technical snafus early on, or his piece about the Secretary of State being a very memeable figure. But I will say, at the end of the day, though, when it comes to these kinds of newscasts, and you know this too, Greg, being in television for so long, the hosts are one part of the show. And it's particularly on a newscast like that, the correspondents are what really make the show. Because Tony could offer a more neutral setup, but if the correspondent takes things in an entirely different direction, what is the viewer to think? On balance, the viewer is going to say it is still a liberal newscast. And I think that's kind of where I would put that network right now, where Tony, will offer commentaries from time to time that are much more in line with, what Americans maybe in the middle are thinking, or as Barry Weiss says, this where 70% of the country lives. I will say, though, the correspondents are still the same kind of biased folks that you see on the morning show. Margaret Brennan, as I just mentioned, she was on last night with the head of the UN nuclear watchdog group, basically saying anything President Trump does in Iran will fail because Iran is determined as ever to make sure they have nukes, and there's not really anything anyone can do about it. And so I just have to say that there's still a lot of work to do. Because he can be great, but if the correspondents are still cranking out the same stuff, it's hard to say much has changed.
Well, that's very interesting. Who the hell was it? I think it was Michael Deaver, who was the deputy chief of staff to Ronald Reagan. And, Sam Donaldson back in the day would give Reagan a really hard time. He was very biased, did not like Ronald Reagan. And Sam Donaldson meets Michael Deaver at some party, and Sam Donaldson thinks he's going to jump down his throat. And Michael Deaver's like, "Oh man, Sam, you do such a great job." So, what are you talking about? Oh, they're so beautiful. But they're pretty negative. It doesn't matter. The visuals are so awesome. And they were so consumed with the visuals. They really thought the Reagan, and think about it, Reagan did not get positive mainstream media coverage.
No.
But he broke through even with the nasty camera, the nasty comments by the reporter and the reporter track. Ronald Reagan broke through. And it didn't matter what they said about him. America understood. And I find it fascinating. I wish I could study this stuff all day long. Newsbusters, tell us about that. Who funds it? How do you guys work? Who invented it? It's a great, great service. Everybody should check out the Media Research Center and Newsbusters. Managing editor here. Curtis, how did that all start?
Yeah, in 1987, Brent Bozell, Brent Baker, and Larry Gourlay, one of the fundraisers, the three of them and a few others started with an office in Old Town Alexandria, Virginia, and a bunch of VHS tapes and VCRs recording ABC, CBS, NBC evening newscasts. And it's grown to covering things 24/7. We have this huge cloud DVR system. We record more, and we have more in our archives than any particular entity in America, other than, I would say, the networks themselves, who obviously have their own historical record of their own programming. So we're a nonprofit 501c3. Folks can learn more at mrc.org to chip in a few dollars if they so choose. We have news coverage around the clock covering the best and worst of the liberal media, both qualitatively and quantitatively. And speaking of the phone, we do have an app that we launched a few months ago, the Newsbusters app on Apple and Google Play, that you can read our articles that way without having to open your web browser. And, we cover ABC, CBS, NBC, we cover big tech, we cover Apple News and Google News, because we know that's where a lot of folks, folks that maybe not be as much of a news junkies as we are and your listeners are, the friends who may fall victim to a lot of the liberal narratives where they get their news. We're looking more into that. So, we're covering all kinds of different news, and cable, of course, as well.
And you're not kidding about those archives. I remember, it's all coming back to me now. One of the most important moments of my media lifetime was sitting around watching the McLaughlin Group in 1989, and this big fatso named Jack Germon from the Baltimore Sun said something so casual, so glib, and so wrong about Rudy Giuliani. I'm like, I knew he was wrong. I had never heard anybody on television be wrong, and I knew the truth. And you, Curtis Houck and Media Research Center, found that clip for me in about 5 minutes. It's amazing what you guys do. And by the way, you got a little gem online right now from Curtis Houck's own X account, Margaret Brennan talking to Tony D. Check this out. Stay with us one more moment there, Curtis. Hit it.
President Trump has said Iran must never possess a nuclear weapon. And on that point, Face the Nation moderator and chief foreign affairs correspondent Margaret Brennan spoke today with Rafael Grossi. He's the head of the UN's nuclear watchdog. Margaret, good evening. What did he tell you?
Well, Tony, the IAEA director is here in Washington talking to White House officials about what happens after the bombing campaign ends. He wants his weapons inspectors to secure the nuclear material that Iran has. But Grossi was very clear. It is impossible to destroy Iran's extensive nuclear research programs through military force alone. As he put it, you cannot force Iranian scientists to unlearn what they have already learned. This war will not destroy Iran's nuclear ambitions and capabilities.
I would say anywhere.
Anywhere.
Unless it was nuclear war and you go for destruction in an unfathomable way, which we hope, of course, will never be the case.
President Trump and Israel have talked about the potential of sending special forces in to secure some of this enriched material. How difficult would it be to move these cylinders that are there full of chemicals?
I'm not saying it's impossible. I know that here there are incredible military capacities to do that, but it would be a very challenging operation.
And Grossi said it would be difficult to handle those cylinders buried underground containing uranium gas while we are in the middle of combat operations. But his bottom line, a lot of Iran's program has survived. And Trump will eventually, he says, have to go back to the negotiating table to talk to Iran and whoever is running that country.
All right. I got to tell you, my eyes started to glaze over there. What did you notice? What did you post about that?
I thought this is part and parcel of the doom and gloom operation that the liberal media have been undertaking. It's one thing, Greg, to ask questions about how the war in Iran is going and what is the plan and what is the plan for the day after. Fair enough. But you reach a certain point where you're kind of almost doom casting. It's almost fear porn, trying to suggest that no matter what the president does and his team does, it will fail. And you notice there, the talk about the negotiating table and kind of working with Iran, that's the same kind of talk that we heard around the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal from Barack Obama. And we all know how that worked out. It didn't work out that well. You know, Iran was allowed to obtain millions and millions of dollars, as the president has talked about constantly. And they gave interviews in the years since saying, oh, we're going to use the money as we see fit. In other words, not use it to better their economy or help out their populace, which is just maybe a shade more open than North Korea, as we've known during this war with the lack of internet access. So to simply say, no matter what the president does, it's not going to work. They're convinced that they want nukes, so you can't really stop them, so we might as well work with them, is kind of the defeatist attitude that the president has come in and said on issue after issue, not just Iran, to say, how about we think about things differently here?
I love it. Curtis Houck, thank you for your work. Thank you for being with us. Check out Newsbusters and Curtis Houck on X and beyond and the Media Research Center. Thank you, pal.
Good to be with you, my friend. Take care.
All right, to be continued. Folks, it's 2:48. That means the week is almost done. But we have our beloved Barbara next.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Right, we are back. I do believe everything is going to be fine. I really do. What? You want to worry? You want to worry so much? You're worried about war? You're worried about combat? You're worried about some bombs? All right. Yeah, you are a little worried about bombs. Yeah, I guess so. I got kids. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I forgot about my kids. I got so much to lose. Oh man, it is a complex, tough world. But President Trump hasn't let me down, and God never lets us down. Barbara, we need you. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm just fine, but I am worried, and I am so thankful that we have President Trump as our leader. And I'm so disappointed in some of my friends with whom I agree on everything except this. Much to my surprise, there are people who I never would have expected who criticize Trump basically because he's not perfect. because he's not perfect. He can't do anything. And what I say to them now is, what is your alternative? Who would you elect if you can't elect Trump? So I'm so thankful that we have Trump, and I think that gives us hope. And I hear what you said a few minutes ago about the Democrats talking about having Nuremberg-type trials when they get back in power. That is horrifying. And it repeats and it echoes what a Chinese general said, Sun Tzu. He said, an evil man will burn down his own nation to rule over the ashes. And that's what we're talking about with Nuremberg-type trials. That's what we're talking about with assassinating President Trump. That's even what we're talking about, burning down your nation, with Kathy Hochul standing up and saying, oh, I told the conservatives to leave New York because they don't belong here. Well, yeah, so New York is crashing and New York City is crashing. So she's not quite ready to rule over the ashes. So she wants people to come back and be captive.
All right,
again.
now listen, Barbara, speaking of ashes, the building's on fire. Everybody hear that sound? Shoot. The light is now blinking. The siren is off. What's the fire marshal saying? He's making an announcement. Is this a drill or what? Do I have to get the hell out of here? All right, we got to get that. We're gonna evacuate. We're gonna have to evacuate. I'm sure it's okay. By the time I get to the elevator, I'm sure it's going to be under control. Barbara, I have to go. Those are very good points. We have a bit of a situation here, and we're going to. We got to get out. We all got to get out. All right, we're going to get out. All right. Now it's localized. It's just an issue in the building, right? Wait, you guys don't look alarmed. What's going on?
It's a test.
Oh. I thought it was a real thing. Look at, okay. Phew. All right.
You really went into panic mode there, Greg.
Was I panicky?
Kind of, yeah. That kind of. I don't know if I would trust you if things started going down like that.
Hey, I can handle it. I'm easy breezy.
Yeah, and you are now that you know it's a test. But a minute ago, you were not easy breezy.
Well, to be honest, I was trying to get out of work early. You guys could have gone with it. I'm just teasing. Barbara, you were saying.
Yes. Ooh-wee. Well, I'm glad to hear it was just a test. I happened to be visiting family in Grand Cayman, and we had a tsunami test the other day with sirens going off and everything else. And if you don't know it's a test, it's very frightening. So I'm glad it was just a test. But I had hoped to point out that with all of these things going on and with Hochul's craziness and our new mayor in New York City, we need true leadership that builds. We have it in Trump, but we need it in every level of our government. And in order to have that, we need moral people. And the state of Louisiana, I admire them so much. They are the first state to pass a law that says the 10 Commandments must be displayed in every public school classroom.
They are the most moral people, except on Fat Tuesday. Ho, 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 ho. Woo! Anybody ever been to New Orleans on Fat Tuesday in the Mahdi? Wow. Barbara, you're amazing. I'm glad you guys have finally gotten your act together. You were very, very nervous. Both of you. Everything's okay. The building is not on fire. In fact, the test is over. All right, to be continued. I'll see you guys later. I'm making a great big gigantic video that will drop in a couple of hours.
Thanks for listening to The Greg Kelly Show. You can hear The Greg Kelly Show weekdays at 12:15 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?